The Committee of the Whole is called to order. Materials for the Committee of the Whole are in the shared session Google Drive folder labeled Committee of the Whole on Bill number 75-37 LS. Proposed amendments must be submitted in writing to the clerk via email sessiondrive@guamlegislature.org. Amendments not in writing will be called out of order. Rules of engagement, 3 rounds of discussion. We will have 2 rounds of questions for the panel with each senator allotted 5 minutes for question, not including responses. Time to speak may be yielded from no more than one member to another. A member who yields that member's time on a question yields all that member's time on that question and may not later speak, even if all the time yielded was not used. At the completion of 2 rounds of questions, panelists will be excused. 3rd round is for amendments or comments to speak on the bill. After we complete the discussion of the bill, I will allow the sponsor to close, and I will entertain a motion for the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, followed by a motion to rise from the Committee of the Whole, at which time I will report out the bill as recommended by the Committee of the Whole. Thank you. My colleagues, we stayed on recess because we were waiting for BBMR to appear. The director of BBMR is currently still off island. Won't be here until next week. We're still trying to get a hold of folks from the BBMR they can attend to be able to read the report to us, the CRE report. That being said, we do have in the panel, we have Mr. Ed Byrne from DOA, the director, and we have Matthew Baza from GITA. And to my left, I have Director Steve Guerrero from OFB. That being said, we will continue on now, and we'll begin with Senator Duane. Do you have any questions for the panel? We'll begin with you and work our way forward and then work our way backwards. Senator Duane Nicholas? Or correction, let me swear in first the panel. Apologize. The panel will please rise so you'll be sworn in by the sergeant arm.
Under penalty of perjury, do you all affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay. Mr. Chair, under oath. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant Arm. Senator. Okay, the bill we'll be discussing in the Committee of the Whole right now would be Bill number 75-37 LS as amended by the Committee on General Government Operation Appropriation, introduced by myself, Senator Snoxine, co-sponsored by Senator Vice Speaker Tina Rose Munoz Barnes, Senator Amanda Shelton, Senator Duane Nicholas, Senator Roy Canata, and Senator Will Parkinson. An act to add a new section 13 to chapter 11, all of Public Law 36-107, General Appropriation Act of 2023, relative to providing assistance for the private business in their recovery from the economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic through a program established by the Guam Economic Development Authority. That being said, I've read the bill. We'll now begin with Senator Duane Nicholas. Do you have any questions for the panel, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, good morning, gentlemen. This can be answered by all 3 of you. Do we have enough money to make this work?
Well, Senator, let me start. I mean, the bill increases the revenue projections in order to make it work. So if we realize those revenues, then it works.
Mr. Chair, point of order. I think we need to recognize that we're talking about a committee as amended bill, and maybe Mr. Byrne needs to get a copy of the amended bill.
All right. If you want, Mr. Byrne, you need another minute to review the bill, and then you can.
Yes,
answer.
may I read the amended bill? Thank you.
All right, we'll just wait a minute so that Mr. Byrne will review the bill.
Okay, Senator, I need, now that I've read this amended bill, to amend my answer somewhat. This bill appropriates $15 million from the general fund for revenues collected above the adopted levels of fiscal 23, but it modifies that by commenting that the funds should be transferred as soon as they become available. So when these funds are realized, and that to me assumes that this is a future funding, when these funds are realized, they will become available.
Could you speak to the collections and projections, and can we realize this sooner than than later?
Well, so far, I mean, this is a projection, right? So my comments are immediately qualified by the fact this is a prediction. So far, we have been collecting each month, and it's varied by each month, but it's an average of around about $10 million a month above the originally adopted levels. So it's not impossible that this amount would not be available in 2 or 3 months. I would defer to Gita to inform us how long it would take to set up this program, and therefore the money would start to flow in order to fund it. But it's not impossible, but it's a projection.
Senator Fisher? Tom, do you have any questions for the panel?
No, thank you.
Senator Tadegui, do you have any questions for the panel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to note for the record that BBMR is not here. It's very difficult to ask questions when it comes to funding, since they provide the CRER report every month to us. And based on the CRE report, Mr. Byrne, are you aware that any excess revenue coming from the CRE report from the latest one that was submitted on April 20th is at approximately $10,529,000 currently in excess revenue?
That's the excess revenue in excess of the currently adopted levels, yes.
Okay, currently adopted levels. Mr. Byrne, the Public Law 37-5 was the bill that appropriated $20 million to DOE. It was around the same time that the salary Public Law 37-3 was also passed. The budget bill in FY23, revenues projected was $809 million under revenue projections, general fund, okay? $809,922,190,000. When the salary bill passed, what we did was we amended the budget bill basically and amended it for the estimated projected revenues at $830,954,86. So that was an increase of $21,32670. Then when Public Law 37-5 for the DOE bill appropriating $20 million from the excess revenue, and then $10 million from future excess revenue, where the governor vetoed that line item, vetoed that section. But if you look at the bill only increased the general fund revenues to $831,281,067, which is only a difference of about $300,000, $333,000 increase. So it's kind of confusing to think about if you're going to increase the revenue projections, amend the budget bill, or amend Public 37-5 Public Law 37-3. And actually, I'm going to, could I have the Sergeant of Arms provide this to Mr. Byrne? Mr. Byrne, if you look at I'm giving you a copy of the bill. Could you please familiarize yourself with that, Mr. Chair, if you can just give him a minute?
Let's just take a 1-minute recess, allow the panels to review the document. Committee of the Whole is called back to order. I'm going to have both Mr. Byrne and Mr. Guerrero explain the question you were asking, Senator Tyree. And I'll begin with Mr. Guerrero first, and then Mr. Byrne can comment about the availability. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, before you do that, just wanted to explain that the CRER report, if he can explain if the 20 million is already taken out of the April report that was given to us for March, if the 20 million was taken out of that, which, okay, but if the bill, the public law on the DOE bill, actually increases the revenues to allow the CRER report to be in there and not be included in excess revenue.
I'll have
Okay,
Mr.
thank
Ed
you.
explain that, but it is included. Ms. Ed, maybe you'll start with you first.
Senator, the CRER is the administration's document. So I will answer this question from the point of view of the CRER. The way the legislation was written is a matter for the legislature, not the administration. The 852 million that you see on page 3 of the CRER as the fiscal 23 adopted revenues, full year projection. So that's what the administration sees as the full year adopted revenues adopted by the legislature is 852 million. That takes account of the 20 million for GDOE and the 21 million for GPP. So your first step is from 809 to 833, and your second step is from 833 to 852.
Mr. Byrne, you mean 830,954 to 831,281?
It's from the 809 to the 831.
Oh, yeah, incorporating already the salary.
Yeah.
Okay, but Mr. Byrne, based on the legislation, the DOE legislation, it doesn't increase the revenues at all to incorporate that 20 million. It just says to take it from the general fund, but it does not increase the revenue projections.
The only way I can answer that, Senator, and I'll ask Mr. Guerrero to expand on it, is that it goes from 831 to 852, and that's the difference there is the GPP funding. They're both in there, right. They've both been included, both the DDOE and the GPP.
Mr. Byrne, I have no doubt that it's been included. I've read the CR report. It is included. But we're talking about the public law, 37-5, does not increase the revenue projections on the bill. It doesn't do that. If you look at the prior bill, Public Law 3, which is the salary that passed first, it was increased by 21 million. And then when you go to Public Law 37-5, the revenue projection was not increased. It was increased about 333,000, that's it, but it was definitely not increased by 20. So, if you look at the bill, I give a copy of the bill, it doesn't do that. So how can you bring out a CR report incorporating an increase in the revenue projections based on law and not including that as just excess revenue?
Good morning, Senator. If I may try to explain this. In the original Budget Act for FY23, the total amount of revenues projected to be generated is 809 million. As we've done in the past, as the fiscal year goes on and we make adjustments to the revenues based on at least the last 2 years, the excess amount that we anticipate to collect, once those bills and those appropriations are passed by the legislature, what BBMR, to my knowledge, is they take those amounts and add it on to the projected revenues for FY23 or whatever fiscal year we were in at the time we did that. So if you look at FY23, we start out at 809 million, and then Public Law 37-3 appropriates 21 million, and that is for, I believe, the implementation of GPP plan. And then Public Law 37-5 appropriates another 21.3 million, and that was for DOE.
Right, but did you increase the revenue
Yes,
projections?
we did, because it's showing on the CER report for the month
No,
of...
I'm not talking about the CR part. I'm talking about the bill itself, because the bill itself only says for increase in revenue projections on 37-5 was only 831,280,000. So you're taking 830 in the salary bill, right? You increased it by 21 million. Now we have another bill that has 20 million for DOE, but you only increased the revenue projections by only 333 million compared to the last bill.
I believe, Senator, only because the way we've been doing it in the past, it's still consistent. You might be right that the 21 million for DOE wasn't adjusted the way the original 21 million for the pay plan, pay plan was, but we took into account that those monies are already obligated to the passage of these bills into law.
So Steve, answer this question. If we didn't do that and increased the revenue projections, okay, by legislation, if we did not increase that, any excess would be considered excess in the CRER report, correct?
Up to the point of the most recent bills passed, yes. So the last two bills that became law totaled 42.3 million. You add that on to the 809 million, that totals 852. The 10 million that we're talking about now as excess revenue is what we anticipate to collect from April to September. That is the 10 million that's reflected in the CER report. Because we already took into account the 42 million that supposedly was generated as excess million in the first 5 months of the fiscal year. So as we come and we talk here on these bills, mind you, to date there's about $51 million worth of pending bills being charged against the excess FY22 revenues. Those bills have not been passed yet, but those are the ones that are identifying FY23 excess revenues as its fund source. So in order for to be realistic about things, is that hopefully by the end of the year, if all these bills are to pass in its entirety, we hope to generate at least 51 million in excess revenues. If we don't, then it's a matter of, I don't like to use pick and choose, but whatever bills do get passed and whatever amounts of monies are collected and considered excess revenues at the end of the years, those bills can be considered. But for now, what we're projecting based on the CER report put out by BBMR is only 10 million is being projected between now and the end of the fiscal year.
Steve, okay, you know, hold on one sec.
You got 3 seconds. Senator Tello,
Point of inquiry?
you have a point of inquiry? What do you got?
I do. The point of inquiry is this. Earlier you asked me if I had any questions. I said I did not.
And we're done with you. We're at Senator Tideway. Wait until the next round.
My point of inquiry is to claw it back and yield to Senator Tideway.
No. You're already passed. We're already at Senator Tideway.
Okay, well, I
You got
object.
3 seconds left.
I object.
You can go ahead and object all
I
you want.
object and call for the vote to allow me to take Senator Fisher's time.
You're
I'm objecting to your
rules, the
your
rules of
rule.
order?
Yeah, I'm
You're objecting
objecting
to
and
the rules.
asking everyone to vote so that Senator Fisher is allowing me his time. He's not familiar going, forward, so it's not like his first rodeo here, it's not.
Senator
So
Tadegui?
I'm objecting to your rule. Okay,
Okay.
so I call for the vote, Mr. Chair.
Okay, you got three, you are just about out of time. For you call for the vote, I rule that you're out of order, and the number one, the question of Senator Fisher asking to yield when he had already, it passed him. Do we have a vote? All in favor of overruling my decision? Please raise your hand. Motion fails. You got 3 seconds, Senator Tadegui.
Mr. Chair, I'll yield my time to Senator Tello for this round.
Okay. Okay, no problem.
I
Thank you.
don't think we should prohibit a colleague
Understood.
from asking valid
Understood.
questions.
Senator
So
Tadegui,
I
you
yield
got
my
an
time
additional
to her
5
for this
minutes.
first round.
Point of order, Mr. Chair, is the rule allow waiving for this round? Because that was what she said.
Was that the wave?
To yield for this round versus.
Yes.
She used for this round. In other words, when we get to her, we just skip her and we move on to the next colleague. Go ahead, Senator Tadegui, you got an additional 5 more minutes. The time's been yielded from Senator Brown.
5, 6, and 3 seconds, please. I want my 3 seconds. 5 minutes and 3 seconds, please. Please put the 3 seconds. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You can just, we can do the 3 seconds and then you can throw it back to the 5 is fine with me. Steve, if we were to increase in the public law that was passed for DOE, if we were to increase or make the amendment to increase from 830,954.86, which was the salary, right, where we actually amended the original budget law of FY23 and increased that by 21 million. And then we did the same for 20 million to increase it, of course, adding the pharmaceutical or whatever like that, increase it. So it would actually, yield about 52 million, et cetera, right? If we did it that way on the bill, the Public Law 37-5, and then it goes on to the CR report, it's very clear that we would actually come up with the same estimated projected excess on revenues, right? It would come out the same.
If you're talking at that point in time, Senator, yes.
Okay, so that's my point. We didn't do that in the bill. We didn't increase the revenue projections in the bill for DOE to add the 20 million plus whatever pharmaceutical we had to add. We didn't do that. We just said use general fund revenues. That's what the bill said, just to use general fund revenues. But we didn't increase the revenues. So if you ask me, that should not be in this month's CRER report. It should show that's an additional, if there'd be an additional 10 million in the CRER report because you're already taking out excess revenue. So I don't want to linger too much on it. I know there's a mistake there. I want to ensure that whatever's done right is done correctly, that the bill marries with the CRER report, and not just assume that we're taking out 20 million in the CRER report when it's not done correctly.
Point of information, Mr. Chairman. No, because
Yes.
this is important at least
Go
for
for it,
Public
Senator.
Law 37-5.
We're going to go back to another bill. We're at Bill
No,
75?
well, I want to make clear that this discussion over what's been adopted in terms of revenue levels, Steve, Bill 37-5 actually passed before the pay raise bill. So 37-5 is correct, right? Because it took the 20 million. So if there's anything missing here, the pay raises are what's missing. Because we passed DOE's bill first. So 37-5 has no problems. It's the subsequent bill that has a problem. If that's the issue on the CRE. Yeah. but it's not correct, but let's not reference 37.5 because 37.5 is before the pay raise. Yeah.
Let's take a recess so we can pull up both bills and we can get back to this bill. Thank you. The committee of the whole will continue recess until, and we'll come back at 2 o'clock while we're getting all the numbers and reports out. Thank you.